salutation to the stage and the dignitaries, and I'm very obliged to the reformers for giving me an opportunity to speak on Shahu Maharaj's first anniversary. I shall choose to speak in English, even though I was told to make it in Marathi or Konkani by Milan Thai. But this is a very conscious choice to showcase that a Bahujan youth can speak in a foreign language and present his ideas. Secondly, I want this to be a very clear and an unambiguous speech. Third, since most of today's youth have been taught in English medium, I would like to connect better. In today's India, everyone has become very sensitive, and any statement made contrary to the accepted thought process becomes an FIR. Therefore, I have to write my speech down. Hurting religious sentiments has become so common and it's become a trend. Why? That is because these people cannot reply with logical statements and they hide behind this religious sentiment nonsense. So I had to write this and I had to write this down. So it is rather more of an analysis rather than a speech. So please have patience with me. So whenever we speak about social reform and social justice in India, we have to mention three names, without which any discussion on social justice or social reform will have absolutely no meaning. Phule, Shahu and Ambedkar. They are the three Ratnas of this movement and the three Murti of the Bahujan Samaj of this country. We have to start with Mahatma Phule. Phule started this revolution, the spark for the fire of the upliftment for the Bahujan Samaj. He developed it through his rational thought and questioning the existing hegemony in the society. He published Shetkaryacha Asud and Gulamgiri, which I think is a must read for every Indian and a compulsory read for the Bahujans. Further, he started the Satyashodak Samaj, which has sadly been lost in time, and I blame the Bahujan apathy for this. Furthermore, he started pioneering education for women and Bahujan, sections which were deprived through the religious sanctions, and these sanctions came from Manusmriti. Shahu Maharaj, an administrator par excellence, was political architect of social welfare measures and how to execute them successfully. We see there are a lot of measures which have come through Government of India or Government of Goa, but they are not successful. The fault lies in their execution. But this was not the case with Shahu Maharaj. A firm believer of राजसत्ता ही जनतेच्या विकासासाठी असते आणि त्यासाठी वापरली पाहिजे. A revolutionary idea at that point of time. His courage, political will and grit to take on his enemies was extraordinary, and we shall discuss this in detail. The third person is Dr. Ambedkar. Ambedkar is the culmination of Phule and Shahu. He is the logical extension of the struggle. In Ambedkar, we see an intellectual with rational thought, popularity and political will. This imprint can be seen by the way he has written the Constitution of India. The provision of equality, liberty and fraternity, the provisions of republic, the provision of justice, and not only this, he has also mentioned in the Constitution of India the DPSPs, the Directive Principle of State Policy, how a state shall be run. How much of this is implemented, that you have to read the Constitution and be the judge of it. Now, let me focus on Shahu Maharaj. Shahu Maharaj was focusing on social reform and social justice. He provided education to all, reservation in jobs, built hostels, made it compulsory for education for all, and penal provisions for the parents who are not sending their kids to school. Widow remarriage, age of consent, midday meal, etc. Whenever such revolutionary decisions are taken, it is bound that you will make enemies. So who were the Maharaj's enemies? The political agent of the British Crown, the Council of Ministers, the media. So you have to think in that particular time, who could have afforded a printing press then? Do you see any resemblance now? For example, who are the editors of Marathi dailies and which caste do they belong from and how their articles have been written, that you be the judge. 4. The educated class at that particular point of time, the priestly class. And 6. The so-called freedom fighters who are masquerading their interest as the interest of the nation and giving it a packaging of nationalism. 10-15 years ago, who we used to call fringe elements in India and who are now mainstream elements are the same type of people who were in mainstream back then. They were the influencers, they had political power and they shaped discussions. Self-interest, as I said, was wrapped in nationalism. After all, it is politics, wherein your interest is showcased as the nation's interest. Do you see any similarity in today's times? Again, you be the judge. Now, in recent times in Goa, such fringe elements, one of the fringe elements, about 3 days ago, one of these conservative groups by the name of Hindu Jan Jagriti was seeking an inclusion of Inquisition done by the Portuguese in the history books. The children should be taught Inquisition. Super, great demand. But if we want to teach our children the spirit with which Inquisition had occurred, then why restrict it to Abrahamic religions? When I talk about Abrahamic religions, it is Christians, Muslims and Jews. So how did India, which had majority of people practicing Buddhism, turn into Hindu? Should we not teach Pushyamitra Sunga's Inquisition? Moreover, in mythology, Parshuram wiped out the Kshatriyas 21 times. Should we not teach this Inquisition? We are already celebrating him by building a statue. Now, since they named Hindu Jan Jagriti, let us also speak about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, whose Shiv Jayanti we celebrate with full enthusiasm. We should do a Jan Jagriti that the priest of Konkan refused to do the coronation of Shivaji Maharaj because he wasn't a Kshatriya. So, Shivaji Maharaj had to import a bird from Agra or Varanasi. Also, we celebrate the killing of Afzal Khan by Shivaji Maharaj. But at the same time, why aren't we celebrating the killing of Krishna Bhaskar Kulkarni? So that is the question which I am presenting before you. Since Hindu Jan Jagruti want to do a Jagruti for Hindus by portraying them as victims, then they should also focus on historical injustices like the Devdasi system, the Munkar system, the caste system exploitation, the tenancy system, POSCO system. They should also be included in our history book. Why are we just selective of such injustices? Moving on and focusing back on Shahu Maharaj. Maharaja's policies, which I mentioned earlier, have a continuity now as well. In fact, they have been elaborately enumerated in the Mandal Commission recommendations of 1980. 44 years have been passed after these recommendations have been laid down on the floor of the Parliament of India. 2 recommendations have been accepted, and those are reservations in jobs and reservations in higher education. There have been few implementations here and there by state governments. Namely, one is OBC Finance Corporation in Goa. But this finance corporation, there has been no audit for the last 10 years. And because there is no audit, there is no grants which have been given by the central government. So it is as good as not operational. Thirdly, there is a OBC Commission. But this OBC Commission has only power to include and exclude caste in OBCs. Why not give them the power and directions and monitoring powers for implementation of these recommendations of Mandal Commission to find out the actual situation, the problems for the OBCs in Goa? Furthermore, Mandal Commission recommends OBC hostels, which Shahu Maharaj had already done in his times, a network formation for OBCs, for businesses of OBCs. Every recommendation in the Mandal Commission has a detailed analysis. But the OBCs and the Bahujans in Goa don't even know about the existence of such a commission and the recommendations of this commission. Now let me move on to the recent controversies of NEET. I am not going to speak on the administrative failure of what has happened in the conduct of the exams, but mine is a more economic analysis of this. So firstly, the syllabus for these exams is vastly different than which the state board teaches. Therefore, there is a gap of demand and supply which has been exploited by the capitalist coaching classes. For example, Akash and Byju's. In fact, they have become so synonymous with clearing the exam that without going to these particular institutions, it is portrayed that there is absolutely no chance to clear IIT exams for which IIT seats are being given. The fees of these institutes, these Akash and Byju's, range from 2 lakhs to 4 lakhs. In the midst of the failure of state to inculcate proper and relevant education, anti-capitalist exploitation of this gap of demand and supply, the Bahujan is crushed. The dreams are shattered. So even if there is reservation in these professional courses, we see that they are unfulfilled. Then every forward caste blames reservation, which is apparently they think that it is their Janma Siddha Hak. The Bahujan is lost. The topic isn't even featuring in debates of the Vidhan Sabha. The Bahujan is lost, it is clueless, and it reflects in their leadership. The next question is, when did the Bahujan Samaj unite in Goa? 1. For the election of Bhausaheb Bandodkar. 2. The Munkaryal and the tenancy laws. 3. The reservation laws. And sometimes we see this unity is the election of the MP of North Goa. That's about it. So other than that, there is absolutely no unity. And why isn't there any unity? First, there is no definition of Bahujan now. Second, there is no intellectual discussion amongst the Bahujans which shall capture the imagination of the Bahujans. Therefore, because there is no capture of imagination, there is no political discussion. There is no Bahujanism now. Lastly, the conspiracy to not publicize Bahujan literature and personalities is the final nail in the coffin of the Bahujanwad in Goa. Let me just elaborate on that. Shahu Maharaj is not mentioned in the books, in history books or in Goa. Mahatma Phule is reduced to a paragraph with an occasional question that he started the Satyashodhak Samaj. Panchadari examine a question and fill in the blanks. That's about it. Baba Saheb is reduced to mention of Pune Pact, and that is because of Mahatma Gandhi. And as an architect of the Indian Constitution, Baba Saheb has said, ideas are like plants. If they are not watered frequently, they die. And this is what has happened with the Bahujans in Goa. So another analysis of Bahujan youth I would like to present to you is, first, the internet is a great liberator, and this is for the kids here. The internet is a very great liberator. It has more power than Shahu Maharaj ever had in his lifetime and his position. It is a place where you can access all sort of books, academic papers, concepts, ideas, businesses. But we are busy with entertainment, reels, satsangs, etc. In fact, these conservatives who I mentioned earlier were fringe elements have captured the imaginations of the youth and tapped into their psyche with this social media. They have smartly projected the Abrahamic religions as oppressors and presented themselves as the victims, and now they are the saviors. I'll give an example of recent times. The ABVP unit in Goa protested to the Goa University to reschedule an exam since it was clashing with Sirgaon Data. It's a very commendable action, and we have to give credit where it is due to ABVP. But the same ABVP was silent for 17 years on the denial of reservation for seats for OBC, SC, ST in Goa Medical College. And if you are saying about, if you are thinking I'm saying it against ABVP, just ABVP, then NSUI isn't any better. They are in the same boat as that of the ABVP. Both have been silent. दोन्ही एक बरोबर खतखते शिजयतात. So whenever there is when it comes to a Bahujan questions, they have been absolutely silent. And when we go back into the history, when Mandal Commission reservation was approved by the government of India, it was ABVP, NSUI and the communists which came together to protest against the decision. So when their interests have been threatened, they come together. Just we have to think critically and especially critically on our youth. In Goa, everyone gets educated. Then why are we still practicing Gulamgiri? Why is the Bahujan still practicing Gulamgiri? Mahatma Phule said, Vidya vina mati geli, mati vina gati geli. And then at the end of it, Shudra Khatun Raile. But who do we take education from is of as much importance in today's age. Because when Phule was talking about education, he was receiving it from the Western education based on Enlightenment and Renaissance. Our education syllabus now is written mostly by the forward caste, who, as I mentioned earlier, will never showcase the Bahujan struggle. And moreover, never mention, they will never understand it. This is a very personal opinion as well. Therefore, we have to make sure that the Bahujans have our own written history, written down and celebrate our heroes. And in this regard, it is very commendable on part of the reformers that they have attempted to celebrate a revolutionary king. So, what is the legacy of Shahu Maharaj in Goa? There is only one person who is the true successor of Shahu Maharaj in Goa, and that is Bhausaib Bandodkar. Bhausaib Bandodkar enacted the Multavia law, the tenancy laws. He started PHC in every village. He started primary education to all. And this is how every Bahujan got education. My grandfather was a toddy tapper. My father got education because of Bhausaib Bandodkar. No one has ever truly come to the height of Bhausaib. No one has ever truly come to the height of what Bhausaib has done for the Bahujans. And as Lok Satta editor said about Shahu Maharaj, it can also be said about Bhausaib. सत्तेला जेव्हा शहाणपण येते तेव्हा समाजाच्या विकासाला गतिमानता प्राप्त होते. And we can see this when we compare Goa to any other states in India, we can see the progress. We can see the per capita income and we can compare it to any other state. And finally, before I conclude, I pray that this platform becomes a stage for discussion of Bahujan ideas and the propagation of Bahujan ideas and programs. Thank you. Jai Shahu, Jai Bahu.
धन्यवाद वैभव नाईक. प्रामाणिकपणे सांगते की वैभव नाईकांना मी मैदानावर चौकार किंवा षटकार मारताना कधी बघितलेलं नाहीये, परंतु आता शब्दांचे आणि विचारांचे जे चौकार आणि षटकार त्यांनी मारलेले आहेत ते नक्कीच आपल्या टाळ्या अपेक्षित करतात. जोरदार टाळ्या. आपल्या भाषणामध्ये जे त्यांनी मुद्दे उपस्थित केलेले आहेत, राजकीय आणि सामाजिक मुद्दे उपस्थित केलेले आहेत, त्यांची योग्य चर्चा त्यांनी त्याच्यामध्ये केलेली आहे, योग्य पृथक्करण त्यांनी मुद्द्यांचं त्याच्यामध्ये केलेलं आहे. यानंतर आपल्या कार्यक्रमाचे प्रमुख पाहुणे दत्ता दामोदर नायक यांना मी आपले विचार व्यक्त करण्यासाठी व्यासपीठावर आमंत्रित करते. त्यापूर्वी त्यांच्याबद्दलची जेवढी माहिती मला मिळालेली आहे ती मी आपल्यापर्यंत पोहोचवण्याचा प्रयत्न करते. उद्योजक हा अनेकदा सृजनशील लेखक असत नाही आणि सृजनशील लेखक